Homeowner Survival Series, Episode 2. Again, I'm Robin Collegetti. I'm not going to go through it all again. There's all my information. As I mentioned, we do this every month. So January we did frozen pipes. Now we're doing, fight 15 little things that could be big problems. We do it on the first of every month, unless the first falls on a Saturday or a Sunday. Then we do it on the closest day. So March, just so you know, some other ones coming up. We have spring cleaning and the 10 supplies every homeowner should have, and that one's going to be. We're going to include a scavenger hunt activity in that presentation to see what everybody does have and doesn't have, so you can kind of figure out what you need to get. In April, we're doing ticking time bombs and building code violations you are likely ignoring. In May, we're going to talk about hurricane and storm preparedness prior to hurricane season starting. In June, we're going to do it yourself, question mark, knowing basic homeowner maintenance. I plan on having a guest with me on that as well from a contractor. In July, we'll talk about mold because July and June with humidity, that's where we start to get into some mold problems. August, pet fire safety and disaster preparedness. I'm a big animal lover, and as I help a lot of companies as well as homeowners for fire preparedness and emergency preparedness, and a question comes up a lot about pets. So we created a whole series on your pets. And then September is biohazards and other gross materials. October is a general fire safety as we start to get into the colder months. November is titled Be a Good Neighbor, and that's where we're going to talk about seniors and people with challenging disabilities, things of that nature, and how as a neighbor you can help your community. And in December, we'll talk about holiday safety. So, preparing for emergencies and the worst. The key to saving money, time, and lives and injuries is to be prepared for the unimaginable and to watch for these easy to overlook signs of trouble. Obviously, a sink that is putting some black stuff back in, like that shower there, you think to yourself, is that a problem? And that's where we're going to talk about these different ideas. So number one is dry mud tunnels. Bear with me while I switch this over to this. I have two computers going over here. Can anybody tell me what we're looking at here?
Ants.
Oh, it's a good suggestion.
Termites.
Termites. Yeah.
So mud tunnels on the foundation. This is a sign. Oops, I went one screen to. Nope, there it is. Sorry. This is definitely a sign that you have termites, and termites can be very, very damaging. Basically, the mud tube foundations are their point of access into, they call it a restaurant. It's like your house becomes a restaurant and they feed on it. And the damage that they create by running from the ground through to the siding, they are, subterranean critters. So they prefer to remain covered, and they travel back and forth from their nest in the soil to the restaurant in your house. And by creating these ongoing tunnels and reproducing over and over, they are affecting the structure of your foundation and of your house. And if you see those tunnels, you definitely need to pay attention. To conceal their comings and goings, they build these small tunnels. They're about a 1/4 inch wide. And they can be built on the outside of your foundation or on the inside. So part of being prepared and, looking at your house for any potential problems is check your crawl space. Take a bright flashlight in the crevice and check for the tubes once or twice a year. You might not have them today, but you might have them in 6 months. And these are some signs of what to look for if you do inspect your crawl space. If you do spot those tunnels or any kind of damage that you see here, you definitely want to call a pest control service to exterminate for the termites. So then you can actually fix the problem and hopefully prevent it from happening again.
When are they most active, Robin? In the winter? Like when would they attack your home?
Um, my understanding from the research I did to make this presentation was it really can happen anytime. Um, they're this is their food source,
Mhm.
so they have to eat. I Mike, I'm not sure. Do you know of?
What the way I've heard it explained for those of us on the East Coast is that they are most active during the Major League Baseball season. How's that?
Oh,
Right? So, like March to November is when they're
Okay.
most active, and in warm climates, they're active all year round.
Okay. All
But
right.
yeah, I did hear that one time somebody explained it as the Major League Baseball season, which is just, I see Major League Baseball as April to October, but March to November kind of makes sense too. So depending on the type of winter seasons you're having.
that's great to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Much appreciated. And easy to remember. Now, when baseball season starts, I'm gonna be like, oh, we gotta go check for termites. There you go. There's your two times a year at the start of baseball and at the end of baseball. All right, problem number two. You have a door that won't close. Is this a problem? Could be, could not be. So if you have a door that used to close easily, but now it sticks or it won't close at all, it could be a sign that something has shifted in the structure of your home. One possible cause could be expansive clay soil that swells when it becomes saturated and it puts a pressure on your foundation, which causes it to shift. Or it could also be the result of normal settling. Lastly, it could be that some tweaks are needed on the hinges or the doorknob mechanisms. So, everything does settle a little bit on all houses, new houses, older houses. Again, you want to inspect your doors, you want to repair them. If it's not something simple like your hinge, I know I have a 200-plus-year-old house, and we often have to readjust the hinges just a little bit so they close better. We can close them, but like they'll start to get a little bit hard to close. But if it gets to a point where you're seeing a lot happening and like it's shifted an inch or so, you definitely want to call a licensed contractor. And then for a long-term repair, you might want to consider replacing old doors and having them all redone so that they don't have that problem anymore.
I got a great little TikTok life hack here. I have 4 kids. My doors get abused. They're open and closed, slammed, hung on. If you find that a screw or a couple of screws are loose in your hinge, a great hack is to remove the screw, stick in a um, why can't I think of the
Peg,
name of the
like
huh?
like a little peg.
A paper clip.
Oh, a
So
paper clip?
take a paper clip. Yeah, let me see if I can grab one here. You take the paper clip and you open it up, and you've got that you put that in, then screw it in, and then just wiggle it back and forth to snap it off at the connection of the head of the screw. Um, I've seen that done multiple times. Like I said, on TikTok, I follow some do-it-yourselfers and contractors, and yeah, it works. So if you have, instead of going with a longer one, which will bite, but then it might eventually work its way loose again, put some metal in there and screw it in. It'll tighten it right up.
I've also seen that if you put a peg into it, then you can just screw another screw directly into the peg through the
Like a
holes.
wood peg. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, like a tee, like a golf tee.
Yes, I've seen it with a golf tee specifically also.
That's a
Yeah.
great idea. See, we're all these great suggestions we're learning. Awesome. All right, number three, the floor is sloping. You might spill some water and notice it's really running down your floor. A marble would be ideal, but I don't think people have marbles as common. But is this a problem? Again, unless you drop a marble and it rolls to one side of the floor, you spill a glass of water and the liquid runs to the same spot, you might easily miss a slight slope on your floor. When a formerly level floor develops a slant, it could be a sign that one or more of the joists that support the floor have rotted or are broken. And this will cause the floor to settle in that area. So this first picture on the left, you can see this is just an illustration of how the floor can slope at the joist area. A structural engineer should take a look at your home structure, the support system, to determine a method for repairing it. Because if you let that go, you can have more damage. It could become more expensive and more extensive. You may have to replace one or more of the floor's structural members, or there are the joists that you see there in the picture too that can easily be put into the home to help strengthen the entire structure. And the after picture there on the right, you can see how it immediately just brings the floor back up and level.
And as strange as that picture looks, I've seen that so many times. Just ridiculous layers of, like, the contractors put a piece of wood down, then put like a cinder block, and then a side turned cinder block. Like, it's just not going to hold up over time. And we see it all the time. We just had some pictures taken in a basement, or in a, crawl space not that long ago, and they were showing that. So it's not uncommon that a contractor would do that. But the after picture is probably the most effective way of doing it, using real pieces of steel, metal to support it.
Correct. And you will see this more frequently in older homes. In our area we're in Bucks County, a lot of people have old homes. And if you're buying an older home, or if you own an older home, definitely something you want to add to your inspection list once a year to see. Because again, unless you spill that water or drop a marble, your floor might have a slope and you don't even realize it. So it's always good to have your joists inspected.
Now, Robin, is this for every home or homes that have basements? I mean,
Well, all homes have, you can still, the ground can still settle to a certain extent. Um, but a lot of homes without basements still will have a crawl space underneath.
oh,
Uh,
they do?
a lot do. A lot.
Okay.
Do. There are some that,
Aren't they built like on a concrete slab?
some like a prefabricated will
Mhm.
be just on a slab. And at that point, if there's any settling in the ground, the concrete could actually crack. Um,
Right.
but there's the structure of the house still has a I don't want to use the word foundation, but but it's kind of like the foundation, the building part of the house. I can't
Got
think
it.
of the word that I'm trying to use. The frame, the framing of the house, that bottom level.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Rosie, it's a good question. You'd be surprised the number of homes we go into that have crawl spaces. There are a lot of older homes that have crawl spaces that we have to come in and take care of, either to remove oil from a spill, or to treat from a mold or sewage standpoint. So
Mhm.
they are definitely a challenge, and that's mostly when you find that there's an issue, when something affected it, and then a company like us comes in, and in order to mitigate, we start noticing these types of things.
Got it. Thanks.
Absolutely. Good questions. Okay, number 4, tiny holes in drywall or wood. Again, a lot of things come down to the structure of your house, but these might look innocent enough, but these little spots signal a long battle ahead. Even if they're just a grouping of small dots on the wall, each no more than 1/8 inch in diameter, they're anything but innocent. And that is flying termites. So we talked about termites, but there's also flying termites, which this really skeeved me out because I actually didn't know there was a flying termite. Um, flying termites, they could be a sign of an active termite infestation. Flying termites can chew exit holes through drywall. This allows young termites to escape, then other termites fill these holes with that plaster-like substance that we saw on slide 1. And they make this out of wood fiber and their own feces, which is just this slide just skeeves me out a little bit. But if you find termite exit holes like this is just something that you want to call an exterminator immediately. Has anybody ever experienced flying termites, or even have you heard of them before? Because this no, I Rosie's like no, no.
Are they
Right?
common everywhere or just certain areas like
That's a
north,
great
south?
question. I'm gonna actually look and see because I honestly had not heard of flying termites. I'm using Google while we're doing this. My best friend.
I guess I could do that too if you want to move on, and I'll find.
No, this is. I'm
Okay,
sure other
good.
people.
Did-
The other good point on your slide is why wouldn't this be covered by homeowners insurance?
Um, I don't have the answer to that. Mike, do you have any idea for that?
No, I think it would really depend on the type of insurance you have and the adjuster that you get lucky enough to deal with. But it's more considered, I think this would more fall under maintenance or an act of God that they're just not going to cover.
It's not, I've never seen a homeowner's policy cover termites. It's something you're supposed to just be aware of and,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the exact reason behind it. It's
Okay.
one of those
Mhm.
given things. I actually Google has not answered the question.
It's the warm weather months.
Yeah, it's warm
Okay.
weather months, and I'm sure it's more the south more southern you go, the worse it could be. But I think anybody, yeah, I'm sure we can get them here. I have just personally have never experienced them.
No.
Ugh,
Okay,
Wow.
thanks.
they just make me skeeve.
Yeah.
Oh, real quickly, Rosie, I have been doing this for 20 years and I've never done this Google search. So to answer your question about crawl spaces or to give you more information about crawl spaces, so here's two things. One, cost effectiveness. Moving dirt to level a sloping lot for a concrete pad can get expensive. A crawl space negates that need. And convenience. You get a handy place to install the HVAC unit and piping as well as water and sewer distribution throughout the house. This also makes future repairs and replacements easier. So that's two reasons why you would ever consider to building, like, why would you create a crawl space? Pour a concrete pad, right? Well, one, accessibility to,
Yeah,
future
makes sense.
growth and
Right.
maintenance, and two, because it's cheap. You can
Right.
just slap it up and it can be on level and it doesn't really matter.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike.
No, thank you, because that now I have a better understanding of why they exist.
Right? Yeah, I that makes a lot more sense too. Thank you. Mike, I'm so glad you joined us today.
I'm just a font of Google information.
Yes.
All right, next. Your lights are flickering.
Mm.
Is that a problem?
yeah, my entire screen is, the reason I keep leaving and coming back is because my whole screen is wiggling. Like I can't read any text or see very much right now.
All right, so that's close to lights flickering. Your computer's flickering.
Mandy, your connection seems to be stable from our point of view. Like you are not flickering at all. Maybe you think you might be having a problem with your laptop?
I don't know. I just plugged it in. It's fully charged, to be honest. So, and I've tried closing Zoom and opening it up again, blah, blah, blah. But, at least I can hear you guys.
Mm-hmm.
How that works. So your lights are flickering. Unless you're hosting a disco party, flickering lights are not a good sign. So obviously, the first thing you do is check the bulb. It could just be the bulb's a little loose. We have candles in our windows through our house year round. We don't just do it at the holidays. We just keep them up. And so many times I'll walk into the bathroom and it's like flickering. And all you gotta do is just turn it back in. I don't understand. How do they get loose? Nobody touches them, but they do. So obviously you have a light flickering. Try just screwing it in tighter. If that doesn't work, try putting in a new bulb. If the flickering continues, or if more than one light bulb is flickering, it could be a sign that some wires somewhere along the circuit are loose, or that your home's wiring is not adequate for the amount of electricity you're currently using. If you're noticing this and it's in a lot of lights at the same time, an electrician can diagnose if there's a problem, fix the loose wires, and add additional circuits if necessary. So it's just something, again, you might not think is a big problem. That could be a big problem down the road. Also, again, going to throw in that older house syndrome if you have an older house. And when I say older house, I mean my house is 200 years old, but an older house could be built in the 50s, 60s. And, if things have not been updated since then, there's potential for a lot of electrical problems. Good thing if you're buying, you know, a new house, even if it's an old house, inspections can rule a lot of this out. So, that's why we have inspections in place for real estate transactions. All right, what's number 6? Ooh, big crack in the window. So when you discover a new crack in one of your home windows, um, a little sleuthing is in order. If you've ruled out impact, if for instance the neighbor kid who throws rocks, you know, at your window, or a baseball or things like that, the crack could be a result of structural shifting that has been created, and that creates a pressure on the glass. So that could be a big problem. Um, Pressure cracks will often show up as a single crack that runs from one edge of the window to the other, kind of like this one here. You see it's from this side to this side. That's a real indicative sign of a pressure crack. Versus something like this, just taking a look at it kind of gives you the idea that something hit the window. So if you walk into a room and you have a broken window, it's the first thing to look at. How is it broken? Um, Definitely examine the interior walls and exterior brick or stone siding to see if there's any other cracks, and anything in the mortar joints. If you do find more cracks, it's definitely time to have a contractor or a structural engineer take a look at. So the 3 different types of crack, that thermal stress crack, now these are cracks at a perpendicular angle, and these may be caused by sudden temperature swings or shading changes on a building. An impact crack is a crack that's in a starburst pattern, as seen here. It radiates. Golf ball, baseball. I always, it cracks me up. I like to golf. I'm not good at it, but I like to golf, and we do a lot of golf tournaments. And most golf courses are built with homes. And it's very popular, and people love to live on the golf course. And I can't fathom it because you must have golf balls hitting your windows all the time. Not sure if you can take out like an additional insurance policy for that or not. You can? Okay.
I live on a golf course. Well, I don't. I live across the street from it it's a neighborhood that was built off the golf course, but at the same time the golf course was built, and I know a ton of people that live on the golf course, and they love it. They'll
And
have they
do they
get
get
golf
broken?
carts and
But do they get broken windows all the time?
not
Yes.
all the time, no, but a lot. There's enough of them. Yeah, I think it's just one of the hazards of that lifestyle. But they also get to go in their backyard and drive balls, so you
True.
know.
True. And the last crack is that pressure crack, and that's the crack that's similar to the curve of an hourglass. Insulating glass windows with 2 panes of glass that have air inside them may get pressure cracks as well. Just if you have a crack and you know it was not from something that hit it, you need to take a look at your structure, because it could lead to bigger problems, as we had mentioned.
Robin, when we did that house for a friend of yours, a mutual friend of ours, when they got flooded out a couple of years ago, 2 years ago,
Yes.
first thing the adjuster did when she came into the house was look at the the meeting of the wall and the ceiling, and she saw that it was dropped. So not significant, but there was enough of a separation up there that she said the foundation shifted under here. So
Wow.
she was able to determine that the foundation shifted before we did any demo, just based on the fact that there was a gap a slight gap up at the ceiling, between the ceiling and the wall. And when we pulled the sheetrock away, it was absolutely, it definitely had dropped. So
Right.
something else to take note of for
Yeah.
older homes or flood damaged homes.
Yep. Yeah, that's why sometimes a lot of little signs are really bigger problems. All right, number 7. Oh, these are washing machine hoses. And that one on the right, is that a problem?
Yeah.
Could be. So over
Unfortunately, Robert, that's my favorite kind of washing machine hose. It means I'm going to be coming in
Yeah, right.
money.
yeah, big problems can lie ahead because well, over time, high water pressure can cause rubber in a common washing machine hose to soften and it will lose its integrity. But when it results in this visible bulge that resembles a small balloon, the bulge is a sign that the hose is failing. And a failing hose can burst at any time. And like Mike said, that's when you're calling somebody like ServPro. um, it's been said one of the top most avoidable home disasters is a burst washing machine hose. You can replace it for as little as $10. And, State Farm reports, this was a report from Canada and the US, that there's approximately $150 million in damage reported from hose failures each year. That is a significant, huge amount. And I hope when we get off this call, all of you go take a look at your washing machine hose. Because when I was putting this together, I know I did.
Yeah, two things that I tell people is that, one, make sure you know where your water shutoff is, for your outside hose bibs. Shut them off. Disconnect your hose and open the valve. That's one. Because that we get a ton of work from burst hose bibs. And two is when you move into your home or when you replace your appliances, replace those hoses. Don't see them as, oh, well, the hose is there, just screw it back in. You should, every time you move and into a new home, put new hoses and stainless steel hoses on your appliances, because people take it for granted, like, they just do. So
Yep.
I have a question.
Yep.
Michael, is it true that the hose is supposed to be above the level of the machine so it drains correctly?
yes, that is true. And that's, yeah. If it's not, it's not necessarily a problem, but you do want the water flowing downward. Yes, you're correct. But again, if because it prevents the buildup of pressure. But over time, these rubber hoses, even the stainless steel ones, if your machine moves around a little bit, or if you consistently, like my wife's obsessed to do, is move them out to vacuum behind them and underneath them and push them back, you can cause some damage to the hoses. So you really do need to, yes, Sushi does. She doesn't move the refrigerator out. I get stuck with that. But yeah, those appliances are light enough that she moves them out, vacuums behind them, and
I
over
don't like
time,
dust.
yeah, I agree. So, but yeah, so you could have a problem there. So replace hoses every 3 years. The slide also says that's really not a bad practice. It is absolutely something that a homeowner can do themselves. You don't need to hire a plumber. It's not an expensive thing to do, and it's relatively easy. You may need a pair of pliers, if they were put on, buy a pair of pliers at one point just to get it going. But yeah, it should work fine. And then I guess thirdly, I'll say, because I know with my new appliances, they're plastic fittings now. So you got this stainless steel hose that you're screwing into a plastic fitting. That makes me very nervous. And I'm going to start watching what appliances I buy going forward, because I just don't trust plastic.
Good point.
Yeah. I know.
Plastic fittings on the appliance.
On the appliance itself, yes.
Really?
The male part of it,
Right.
on mine is plastic. And
Hmm.
that's, yeah, I don't know why. And that's probably because I bought Samsung, and I'm going to have to start looking for higher
American
quality.
made. Mhm.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm gonna have to check mine now. We just got a new washer and dryer within the last 3 years, but I'm curious because I personally I was excited to get the the front load, and I don't new stuff in my opinion. The newer the appliance, the cheaper it's made. My old washer I had for 25 years, and that thing never had a problem, and it was just solid. So I'm gonna check that though. Interesting about the plastic, but yeah, inspect these hoses. It can be the source of major flooding, and if you're not home and that water continues to run, you could have a real disaster on your hands.
And I like the stainless steel hoses. I
Yeah,
would never put a rubber hose on anymore.
yeah, and they're cheap. Lowe's, Home Depot,
Oh, yeah.
they're really cheap. So everybody, when we get your washing machine. All right, let's go on to number 8. So discovering little piles of shredded paper. Um, this should send up a red flag. Does anybody have experience with finding clumps of paper, cardboard, fabric? And that's basically a sign that you have mice or rats. They make nests. This is definitely a problem to keep an eye out for. And I actually really like this next slide because I think they're so cute. But I know, don't think that it's just a few mice. A female mouse can give birth to 5 litters in a single year. So a couple of mice can quickly turn into dozens of mice, which can also create very biohazard situations within your home. We do get a lot of calls for attic cleanouts, basement cleanouts that, the droppings from not just mice, but other wildlife as well. It's hazardous, and you need to be wearing proper PPE to be, cleaning such. Um, Mouse droppings carry a lot of germs and diseases. So you definitely, if you find a clump like that, a nest like that, you want to definitely call an exterminator. Um, I'll just add a little story here. Yesterday, I have chickens. Many of the people that know me know that. And the shed that's attached, obviously, we're in we have 200 acres of woods behind us. We get rats and mice all the time. And I have a set, it's called a ratinator. I just keep it in there. It's a live humane trap. Well, yesterday I go in and there's this tiny little mouse stuck in there. And I'm like, so cute. And I'm like, my husband's gonna kill me. He's not home, so he can't hear me. But I let him go. I opened the back. I'm like, go ahead, go eat.
We get a lot of mice because like we live out in the, like that's just country living.
Mhm.
Field mice, we find them in the garden in the summertime, like they're everywhere.
So I'm going to show you all an alternative to trapping mice. So again, being in an old house, we set a lot of traps, and I'm a big animal lover, so I was always like, we have to do it humanely and go release them out in the wilderness. But I learned something that's changed my philosophy on that. So in the house, we actually do use kill traps, the old-fashioned snap traps, and we put them in the freezer. There are rehabilitation, wildlife rehabilitation centers that they feed hawks and eagles and all kinds of wildlife that they're trying to rehab to release back into the wild that only eat mice. So it sounds disgusting, but as you see by this picture here, this beautiful eagle, getting its meal, I have a bag of frozen mice in my freezer. And I drop them off here in Bucks County is the Ark. That's down out in Chalfont area, Central Bucks. I know there's one Pocono Wildlife Rehab in Stroudsburg. But just a note, if you were to do something like this, you cannot kill them with poison because that will then poison the animal. But if you, so it makes me feel better. I'm killing them, which helps with removing them, but I'm also helping with wildlife be rehabbed and released into the wild. So
It's actually not a good idea to use rat poison for that reason, because if you, even if you weren't donating them to a wildlife sanctuary, if the mice eat it and then they get out of the house and then like a beautiful local owl eats that mouse, that owl is going to die.
Yeah.
So it's a better idea to use the traps.
And
Good point, Amanda. I didn't even think of that. I use Nutella and a proper mouse trap, and it catches them and kills them, and I throw them out.
yep. But a lot of people are
Just saying.
poison is just so easy, but it's true. And you can, if you have stray cats and they eat a mouse that ate poison, the cat's gonna get sick and die. Um, I have done some research, and there's a product called Rat X and Mouse X, just the letter X, and its main ingredient is I think it's a whey protein, but basically only rodents, they're the only species, but rodents have a digestive enzyme that triggers their brain to tell them they're thirsty and go drink. This rat X or mice X blocks that enzyme, so they never get the signal to drink. They wind up dehydrating, and then they slip into a coma because their organs are failing and they just pass in their sleep. If an owl or a hawk or a cat eats those mice or rats, they will not get sick. My chickens will not get sick if they eat a mouse that ate mice X. Again, they're the only species that has this specific enzyme, and that's how it works in their system. So just something I recently learned in my research that I wanted to share.
Not to go too far down this path, but I'd rather just quickly kill them with a trap. Like, that sounds torturous, is to trick their brain into not letting them drink. My goodness.
They don't know. They just go on their merry little way. All right.
Maria, you're right. Maria posted in the comments, this conversation is turning quite unpleasant.
But it's something we all have to face if we've got rodents. So, all right, moving on. Number 9. Is this a problem? This white chalky residue on your masonry?
I would say yes.
You would be correct. It's called efflorescence and is caused by moisture that draws the mineral salts from the center of the bricks to the surface. Many times, efflorescence is confused with mold. So, if you do see something like this, you want to definitely inspect it to know whether you have the mold or it is efflorescence.
We get a lot of calls for this. People call us to say they have mold in their basement, on their block walls or their concrete walls, and it's 99 times out of 100 it is efflorescence.
Yep. And here are a few tips that you can do yourself so you can know whether it's mold or not. But pinch between the fingers, efflorescence will turn into a powder while mold will not. Just like here in the picture, it's a mineral. It's like salt minerals. Efflorescence forms on inorganic building materials while mold forms on organic substances. However, it is possible for mold to consume dirt on brick or cement. Just keep that in mind. Efflorescence will dissolve in water while mold will not. Efflorescence is almost always white, yellow, or brown, while mold can be any color imaginable. If the substance in question is purple, pink, or black, it is not efflorescence. If you do see this, though, like Mike mentioned, we get a lot of calls for it. It can be cleaned, sealed, and waterproofed after the cleaning.
And Maria just asked, do you need to treat efflorescence? Efflorescence is a sign of excess moisture. So most of the time when you have efflorescence, it's because there's an outside water issue, maybe a downspout that is clogged and the water's just overflowing and running right at the base of the house, or your drainage, why am I going blank on the word? But your grade, maybe the outside grade has changed, and that's allowing more water to stay closer to the house. So yes, most of the time efflorescence is a sign of an outside moisture problem. It's that moisture pushing up against the foundation, and it exhibits itself in this way. And then another way that we scientific people test for efflorescence is you could taste it. You just get a little bit and you taste it. And if it's salty, it's definitely efflorescence.
Rosie's face was great on that. Right?
I'm telling you, Rob and Josue both swear by tasting that they can tell the difference between mold and efflorescence. So
Hey,
So once you fix the drainage problem, you can wash the brick and it'll be good. You don't need to
yes.
seal it or do anything else.
A lot of times people will seal it, but you don't have to. You can just wipe this off with, with water, and you'll be fine. But you do want to look, is it regularly, wipe it off? Does it reoccur again after the rain or after a snow melt off or something like that? Then you probably have an outside moisture issue that you want to address.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, on to number 10.
Yeah.
Slow drainage around your house.
Robert, did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't see everybody on the screen, so just again, if anybody does have a question, just speak up. So anyway, you have a clogged sink. So is this a problem? It could be. One clogged sink, it could just be a clogged sink. Your kid put something down it, right? Just you have a normal hair clog, things of that nature. But if you have several sinks that are slow draining, clogged throughout your entire house, that's a symptom of a sewer drain clog. Like when your toilets fill up when you run the sink is another sign. Again, multiple fixtures. It's not just your kitchen sink, but you're noticing your bathroom sink. Another sign is your toilets don't flush it or gurgle. And or like that very, very first slide, your tub fills with wastewater. You get, something in your shower or tub that's coming from your entire system. Those are all signs that you have a clog in the main sewer line. This is a plumbing emergency. You should call a professional plumber to fix it as soon as possible. We get, again, a lot of calls. That's probably, Mike, what would you say? 50% of our business?
It's a good percentage, yeah. And you usually notice it in the basement first. If you have some sort of water down in the basement, a toilet, a sink, your laundry stuff. And something else to note is you all see where the sewer clean out is?
Mhm.
To
Yeah.
the left of it, you're responsible for it.
Correct.
So to the right, you're not. So if, I know for a fact, because we used to do a lot of work there, White Marsh Township is terrible as far as the sewer system. It backs up all the time. And when the city takes responsibility for it, we come in and we clean it up and we bill them. But a lot of times they'll go to the people, especially in Philadelphia, will go to the water department or the city first to say, hey, my basement has sewage in it. And when they discover that the obstruction is to the left of that sewer clean out, they charge them for it. And then the bill for cleanup is on the homeowner. So it is, as Robin said, it is an emergency. It's not something that maybe it'll fix itself. Maybe it'll clear itself out. I mean, I did a job at my parents' house years ago where we always had the problem. Growing up, toilet paper, putting anything in the toilet, there was always a chance we were going to have some sort of a clog. And it was because over time outside, the sewer pipe cracked. So my dad would snake it all the time and he would keep it moving. Well, it got to the point where it just completely caved in. So me and a contractor friend, we dug it up and we replaced the sewer line. But again, it was on the suburbs, so it was on the inside of the concrete. So the bill was on my dad. So that's why Mike handled it, because I helped him out there, but he wasn't getting any money from the water department because it was on the other side of the concrete, not on his side. So
I have a question.
please.
As a single family homeowner, if I wanted to have all my sewer pipe snaked and camera videotaped to make sure that there's no clog, what would be the average price for that?
That I don't know.
You don't do that work?
We don't do that work. No.
Okay.
Rosie, where's your house? Rosie?
Montgomeryville, North Wales, PA.
I'm sorry, can't help you.
Carney, call Carney Plumbing and Heating. They're great. We work with them a lot.
Okay.
They service my home. Well, not anymore because I have a buddy whose son now is an HVAC guy. So yeah, I have him do my work, but I've used Carney for years and they refer us on work.
They're-
So they're right in
Thanks.
Montgomeryville.
The reason why I'm asking is Montgomery Township, that's my township, just sent a letter to everybody asking them to enroll on their sewer maintenance program. And they want to charge homeowners, well, they're offering the service or the insurance in case of a clog from the lateral into the house, $110 a month, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. I also manage a community in that township, and all of the homeowners are asking, why do we have to pay for this? Isn't the association responsible? So I am illustrating to them a similar drawing that like you showed and informing them the lateral that benefits your unit is your problem, not the association's. Enrolling into that thing is completely optional, but on my end, I would be freak no. Get it staked once, clean it correctly, and then absolutely enroll on the sewer backup endorsement to your homeowner's insurance. So that way you're covered. Is that the way that you guys would handle it?
I absolutely would, unless I lived in White Marsh Township and I knew that I was always going to have fear for a problem. But no, I completely agree with you. I mean, I'm sure it's not going to be cheap, but having that video proof that they did what they said they were going to do, and they can also maybe find a problem too, find a crack in the line that now
Right.
you can properly budget for. You know,
I guess my question was, I bought my house in 1998 and I've never had a problem. So as a homeowner, not an association, single family homeowner, how often do you think you should even inspect your line to make sure you don't have a crack or that everything is functioning correctly?
I'd say probably every 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, just
Okay.
and it depends on the type of use it gets. I mean, I've had to pull toilets completely off of their flange because my kids flush something down the toilet, and you know it gets caught on the other side of the trap, but it doesn't make it through the pipe. I've had to pull toilets off to clear that stuff out. So I have a feeling that as the kids get older, my diligence can decrease. But until, you know, an 8-year-old isn't going to try to flush, you know, a stuffed animal down a toilet, I'm going to have to pay attention to stuff. So,
Rosie,
Yes.
this is Bob. Was that program insured by a company?
No, it's offered by the township.
And it was $100 a month?
Yeah, isn't that ridiculous?
We have one available to us down in the city. I live in a over 55, and it's $100 and some a year. And it's from, as Mike said, it's from the clean out. Now,
I
yes,
know. For
that is the
example, go
that
ahead,
is
I'm
the
sorry.
responsibility of the HOA. But it's a lot easier on everybody if you have the insurance program.
Well, like my water company is North Wales Water Authority. They offer it for $10 a year. I absolutely signed up for that.
$100 a month is ridiculous.
Yes, agreed.
it's $1,300 a year. Nobody
Yeah,
wants
it's
that's-
easier to have it camera inspected and cleaned than enroll in that. Okay, thank you.
Sure. See, we're learning something totally different too. I didn't realize that the townships were doing that, but that's
Yep.
good to know.
Mhm.
All right, moving on. Number 11. Does this look like a problem?
No.
Before you start touching up peeling, cracking, blistering paint, it's important to determine what is causing it. While it could be the result of a careless paint job, it's also possible that a leak is behind the problem. You want to investigate the area of the wall, and if you find moisture or water, get a plumber to fix the problem before grabbing a paint roller. Here's an image from a thermal imaging gun that we use. They're really, I had a video I was trying to upload to this because you basically can see moisture on a wall. Like this picture on the right and left is the same corner of a room. So you can tell where there is moisture and where it is dry. We use these a lot as we're doing a water damage job to see how it's drying. You know, visible to the eye, it might look completely dry, but behind it might still have some moisture.
Yeah, just as an aside, if you hire a company for a water problem and they don't show up with a thermal camera, they're not the right company. We have a lot of tools in our arsenal, but you cannot properly moisture map a job without a thermal camera. It doesn't necessarily show you. So that right there isn't showing water per se. It's showing temperature differential, which if you know how to read it, you know that it's water, that it's a wetness. And it could be, you see the pipe is red, so that's showing heat. You can get different readings too. You can get readings off of duct returns. So you got to know what you're doing with the tool. But that picture is a perfect picture of a water damage. And it's probably a very slow thing. So that's why you're just seeing, that latex layer of paint bubbling a little bit, and you're not seeing the ceiling collapse or water running down. But it absolutely is an issue. And there's probably a ton of mold back in there since it's such a slow going issue.
I was just going to say that what happens when you see this, I'm just going to go back to this. You know, not only is that a moisture problem, but there's probably a lot of mold behind that as well that can just grow. And it's definitely something not to take lightly. If you see that kind of bulging in your paint, inspect it. Okay, number 12 is the window. So you have a window that's stuck. Now, granted, this could be a problem, but it could be something simple as well. But you should take a look at what's causing the problem. Windows that once easily opened and closed for you, but are now suddenly giving you trouble, could be a sign that there are issues again with your house's foundation. If you notice this problem along with others, like doors that won't open or close or the sloping floors, that's when you want the professionals to come out and inspect things. However, again, going to older homes, you want to inspect it. Is it just painted shut? I know on my house, several of my windows are painted shut and I cannot open them and I don't need to. So we just leave them as be. But if it is a window that you want to be able to open, you can easily, as that picture shows, or you can take even like one of those X-Acto knives and cut that seal, depending how long that paint's been there and how old that paint is, or how many layers of paint. As in my case, it's probably 100 years worth of paint. It could be quite a job. The other thing that could potentially be a minor problem is the mechanism. Um, there's a lot of rope mechanism in those old windows that could just be broken or damaged. And a great solution is new windows and even old houses to put new windows in. But again, having somebody inspect it if it could potentially be a problem with the foundation. Number 13, back to the toilet. um, Again, is this a problem? Your toilet is suddenly gurgling. When you hear a gurgling noise from the toilet, don't overlook it. It's telling you that something's not right. It's an annoying noise, but it indicates that negative air pressure could be building up in the drain line. It can create an airlock that's caused by a clog. Again, follow these steps to fix gurgling toilets and call a plumber. What you want to do if you have this problem is seal off the drains in the nearby sink, showers, or tubs, and then plunge the toilet. An easy way to seal them off is with duct tape. You could just put tape over them, close them so no air is getting in there, and then plunge your toilet. A good idea is to call your neighbors, see if they're experiencing a similar problem. If they are, this problem can be more of a township problem past that clean out area. You want to check and clear the vent stack. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over number 3, snake the drain. Mike was starting to talk a little bit about that. You can, Home Depot and Lowe's actually rents the snakes now. Like you can just go and rent and try it yourself. A lot of times a clog can be a lot worse than that though, which would require a professional. Check and clear the vent stack. And again, just call the plumber if your toilet gurgles despite these best efforts. It's always best to have a professional check it out.
Hey, Robin, could you go back a slide? Another slide. Nope, right there. So I was going to interject, but you moved quickly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Amanda, a um, very on point, stated before cutting into paint to open windows, it would be good to know if the paint was lead paint or just treat it that way and wear a respirator. That's an excellent, excellent point, especially if you know that the house is pre 1970. That you're pre 1978, excuse me. So we have to take a course every 5 years on lead paint renovation and repairs. Excuse me. And we have to be certified. So there's a whole process involved. If we determine that the paint is lead paint based, we can't just randomly just tear out sheetrock or, plaster and lath. We have to put it under negative pressure. We have to build containment around it. We have to wear proper personal protective equipment. So Amanda's right that if you're doing this yourself, if anybody's ever taken a plaster, a spackling knife and gone to cut into something, it just splinters apart, and you can make it airborne. And there's the potential that you or somebody that's near you are going to breathe that in, make it respirable, and it could cause you problems. So that is a really good point for that portion of it.
Yes, excellent point. Thank you, Amanda. All
Sue
right.
also had a question. She said, what if your hot water tank is gurgling, pounding, or making noises?
Get the hell away from it. Now, if it's making noises, it's probably older, and you definitely want to call a plumber. It probably will need to be replaced.
I mean, it is replaced. I mean, we've only been here 7 years, so it is. It's really weird. On the cold days like this, it's like in there making some weird noises. All right, I'll call someone in. Nothing's happened. We watch it, but
Yeah.
okay.
It can't hurt. In our world, we're all about being ready for emergencies. You'd rather be safe than sorry that it's not a big problem.
And Maria mentioned your pressure valve, that there could be an issue with the pressure valve. Either you don't have one, but I would think you would if it being within the last 7 years. So there could be something going wrong with the pressure valve not being able to handle the higher pressure.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Maria. We'll look into that.
Awesome. Okay.
Carpenter bees, I have them.
He wins the prize. Yeah, we should have done that. We could have turned it into a game if we had the right answers. So yes, holes in your deck, carpenter bees. I think I every deck I've ever had on every house I've ever owned always wound up getting carpenter bees.
Yeah,
So
hate them.
you see the holes, but what you don't see is these tunnels that they create. Again, weakening the entire structure. So these bees, and they look like bumblebees, they are harmless, they don't sting, they're big, but they burrow their nests into the soft wood. So if you even notice piles of sawdust or the holes on your deck or fencing or furniture, then you're probably dealing with carpenter bees. Again, get the exterminator to come out and find a solution before the bees can do more damage, because the more they burrow, the more that they are compromising the integrity of the wood and the structure.
Or get a TimberTech deck.
Or that. No carpenter bees then.
Right.
Okay, number 15, there's an odd smell coming from an outlet. This is definitely something that is serious that you want to, take a look at, because any kind of smell coming from an outlet can turn into a fire hazard and could potentially become a fire. Melted electrical wiring puts off an unpleasant odor. It's similar to what you smell if you run a hand mixer too long and its motor overheats. I actually just had this happen like a week ago, and I haven't used my hand mixer again because I'm like, ooh, I don't want this blowing up on me, but I have to get out and get a new one. If you catch a whiff of that smell, don't ignore it. Unplug all nearby lamps or appliances. Sometimes a new appliance can have a similar smell when you first use it. First time I plugged in a new lamp that we have, I smelled, you can just tell that there's something. It's not, wasn't horrible, but it's the first time it was being used.
Like
Um,
the puff of ozone from the major award in a Christmas Story, right?
oh, I was like, what are you talking
The
about?
sexy leg stop
Yes.
lamp.
All right.
So what do you do if you do have a smell that's coming out from an outlet? Um, Shut off your breaker box and call an electrician right away. It's not worth waiting to see if it's going to go away on its own or if it's odd. If you smell something that has that, like the smell of like a motor, I think you all know that smell. I think we've all smelt it at one point in our life. Stop what you're doing, figure out where it's coming from, and shut your breaker off and call the an electrician. And that will definitely save a lot of money, a lot of damage, lives, and injuries. That was our top 15 small signs that you can have big problems. I did run a little bit over, but that's because I had such awesome interaction and questions as we went
This
along.
was really good. Thank you so much for putting it together. Really
Thank you.
awesome.
I'm glad
Awesome.
you enjoyed it. Hopefully, everybody learned a little bit of something. Again, we will be doing a different series the first of every month. There's only a couple months that it falls on the second or third of the month.